Welcome back to the VTPA Nationals here in world-famous Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky, presented by Ram Trucks. What you're witnessing is one of the largest two-day truck and tractor pulls ever to take place. Over 1,000 entries going down the track this weekend in Freedom Hall. One of the most unique classes that people love so much, the vintage modified, old school, and mostly original modified tractors from the 70s. Lucas Stinson out of Litchfield, Kentucky sets the mark up with his old Farmall powered like they used to do in the old days with a V8 Chevrolet. Now this is Carl Sweeney coming up out of LaSalle, Michigan. Now this tractor started going down the track in 1970. And it's not a John Deere power plant. No, that is a supercharged Chrysler Hemi. Won a lot of pulls back in the early days. And you can see, look at that, the big valve covers of the Hemi coming out from underneath the John Deere. That's originally the start of hot rod tractor pulling right there. And that's what this vintage mod class is all about. Really cool class going on now. You just saw them run 6 miles an hour. Now they're running 12 miles an hour. Listen to Jim Stewart growl that Moline out. 12 mile an hour is the speed limit, and Jim Stewart disqualified because he exceeded the speed limit. Beautiful mini mow, won't get the job done tonight. Vinny Landers, check this out. Old school tricycle front end. What's it powered by? A 1968 427 Corvette engine and transmission. This track was a terror back in the 70s. Runs out of power here today. Corvette power inside that old hot rod. It is amazing. Brian Farthing, he did really good in the baddest antique. Now he's up in the 12 mile an hour category. Big time grain farmer. Look at him just chewing the gum going down the way. He can guide the tractor by the rear wheels. If he needs to, he will set the mark to beat because Jim Stewart and the Big Mo exceeded the speed limit. Now, this is a cool ride here, folks. This is Jeff Schaefer doing the driving on Jim Wilson's original Little American, a dominant Ford powered tractor throughout the 70s and into the early 80s in the lightweight modified category. And check out Jim Wilson with legendary puller, the late Bruce Hutcherson. Sure, they were doing some bench pulling right there in that shot. Jeff Schaefer, ATPA and NTPA Grand National Grand American Event champions, pulled four-wheel drives for years, driving the Little American here in Freedom Hall. Jeff Schaefer takes over the lead with that single engine ride. Glad to still see this awesome machine out on the tracks. Neil Hancock coming up, one of those big, huge, cubic inched Minneapolis Molines at 12 miles an hour. The last Moline disqualified for exceeding the speed limit, Neil Hancock. Wow. Lays down a good run, takes over the lead at 186.25. That'll be a hard distance to beat. Richard Crone, a former winner of the baddest antique a few years ago in Richmond, Kentucky. He had a Minneapolis Moline. He switched to the Red Diamond power, the Red Diamond gas truck engines that a lot of these international use. Richard Crone won't get it done, though, with his machine right now. Now check this out, folks. This is a V12 Packard tank engine. Anything goes in the vintage mod. After World War II, all these engines went for sale, and a lot of motorsports guys gathered them up during the years. Carl Sweeney has been working on those rides for years. He'll have another entry in a moment. This is Adam Cam. This guy's been pulling for about 30 years. Always had a case, sometimes a little more red than case. He spent about 3 years building this dominant ride. It is a beautiful case. Not happy with that run as he will finish down in the pack, but if looks alone could do it, best looking tractor here, no doubt, in the antique side. Let's check it out now. 2, 4, 40 Dodges from the old day. Can Joe take over the lead. Not gonna do it. The single Ford still holds out from the twin Dodges in those days. Comes to us out of Napoleon, Ohio. Kevin Grissom now, one of the top guys with the Molines from the Bluegrass States. Now, right now, he's holding back on the throttle. He knows now to hit it at the end to stay within the speed limit. Neil Hancock with the big Moline stays in the lead. Kevin Grissom knocks on his door there. Going to go into the number 2 spot, and that's how it's going to go out. Neil Hancock with the big Minneapolis Moline takes over the win. And what do we have here? A drag race? Find out what's going on. More action continues because things get heated up. Vintage mod action. We're here at the Vintage Tractor Pulling Nationals presented by Ram Trucks here in beautiful Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky. One of the most unique things are the vintage modified tractors. And we've got a tractor that actually won the National Farm Machinery Show. Is it 1977?
That's correct. Second in 76, third in 75, and then one in 77, this tractor.
And it's actually going to be pulling on the same sled tonight that it actually pulled on in the 70s?
41 years ago.
So tell me about this ride. I mean, the thing that I like about it, it's a big block Hemi, but why the giant headers in those days? What was going on?
Well, the rule in the 70s was that the exhaust headers had to be the highest point on the tractor, and back then you didn't have the roll cage on it because it wasn't a rule. So the headers back in the day were the tallest point on the tractor.
So the other thing is, I remember this tractor. I was here. I was very young, let's just say, but I remember something interesting. I recall it won the 9,200 pound mod, and it's a single motor?
That's correct. In 1977, it was a single, and it loved coming here.
And it was competing against multi-engines and Allisons, but this was one bad Hemi, right?
Yeah, it just hooked up extremely well here. I think the short track had benefit for it, and Gaylord had been coming here, the original owner, since 1971, and he just loved to come here.
Well, one more thing, the old tires. I mean, this is like, the only thing that I see on this tractor that's not from the 70s is the roll cage, all right, adding some safety to it, right? But it looks like the original tires. It's the old big rice and cane tires, as we used to call them.
These exact tires pulled here in 75, 76, and 77.
The same tires. There's not a lot of motorsports that can actually claim the same tires 40 years later. That's incredible. Well, this tractor won in Freedom Hall some 42 years ago, and right now it takes over the lead here at the VTPA Nationals. As the action continues, we got us a John Deere coming up on the vintage side and a vintage mod with a V12 tank motor. Earlier today, I spoke with Mike Ott.
I wanted a V12 something, and we come up with this. We found it out in a pasture. It'd been sitting out there for 35 years. And I got a good friend of mine, Carl Sweeney. We talked about the motor. Carl was the tank guru in the day. And we got a good running motor and put it in here and completely refurbished. In fact, we just started it for the first time since it was refurbished about 2 hours ago. So it moved under its own power. So we'll see what happens in here tonight. But it should be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's a V12 Continental tank motor out of an M48 tank. So.
Wow. Wow. And it was it pretty competitive in its day?
Yeah, when they built this, the pulling was all different back then. Back when this tractor was built in the early 70s, late 60s, it was more of, the sleds were heavier, it was more of a torque, more of a slow drag kind of a pull. It's not as fast as these tractors. That tractor, the motor only turns about 26. We're running a little over 3,000 RPM. So it only goes down the track at about 16 mile an hour, but a ton of torque, which is what they were looking for. It was more the dead weight pulling, Tom, back in those days. So that's what that was built for.
Antique versus modified drag race? Well, not really. They're kind of looking like it, and that's what we're seeing because it's non-stop action. Both of them are ready to go, and you've got a V12 tank motor on the modified side. Mike Ott versus Cecil Foley with the two-cylinder John Deere. Mike Ott trying to beat the Spirit of 76. The tank motor, not going to get it done. Cecil Foley, that beautiful walking tall. It's just like a drag race, about the same way. 165.86. Wow. All kinds of non-stop action here at the VTPA Nationals. Lots of eye candy. We continue on now. In this category, the 6,006 mile per hour, Alan Porter with that Ford. He has done battle, throwing weights, throwing speed, throwing gears all day, trying to get that win. Watch the torque of that engine come up, the flame, the smoke, riding her down. He will take over the lead, 165.97. Well, here is a legendary tractor on the vintage mod. Lloyd McVeigh owned this for many years. His son Larry McVeigh out of Oakwood, Illinois, doing the driving. It's a 426 Hemi with 2 turbochargers feeding into a supercharger. Former Grand National Champion, Indy Super Pole winner, and it's on fire. It's on fire. Now, he told the fire crew earlier today, he said, if this thing catches on fire, let me put it out. He's got a special fire extinguisher, and he didn't want them to get anything corrosive on that high-dollar Hemi engine. It's been known to blow up a time or two, okay? So, getting it under control. What a history on this tractor, and what a wild ride that we've got here at the VTPA Nationals. The action hot underway here. Shot of the tractor when it was a little prettier. More action up next. Since 1911, Sempico Lubricants has been producing the highest quality components that can be found in any oil product, or lubricant. Sempico products are specially designed for the rigors of the heavy-duty industry, including agriculture, construction, trucking, and more. Sempico offers a full line of lubricants and products, and no other company has won more championship tractor and truck pulling titles than Sempico. Welcome back to the VTPA Nationals here in world-famous Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky. The VTPA Nationals, brought in part by our friends at the Bloom's Farmers and Planters Almanac. Let's take one more look here at Larry McVeigh's run. Rolling down the way, everything going good, but kaboom. 2 turbochargers feeding into a supercharger. When you've got that much confusion in a motor, sometimes things just go kaboom. Glad to have the legendary Super Banana here in competition tonight. Ron Kohler taking off the way now, the 6,000 pound, 6 mile per hour class. This John Deere very tough throughout the year from the state of Illinois, a big farmer, and that low end torque of the John Deere kicking in. Looks like he's gonna take over the lead here. Great run, we'll see how it holds up. Now earlier today, had a very interesting conversation with Mike Ott. Let's go to the pits.
Yeah, actually I'm the vice president at this time, but yeah, I got this whole idea started all over this 4-motor tractor. So
over this tractor right here. So tell me the history of this incredible tractor here. What are we looking at?
Well, this was the first 4-engine modified ever built anywhere in the world, and in my research that we've been doing, it might be the first 4-engine anything competition vehicle. I haven't found anything else yet. The tractor was built in 1972. Came out with 4 just junkyard 460 Ford motors on it, and then they started needing some more horsepower, so they went to Holman and Moody.
The NASCAR guys.
The NASCAR guys, and they built these 4 motors. Robert Yates was behind the whole thing, the whole combination, put it together. There's a lot of nice parts inside these motors, and but Robert Yates actually put this combination together for them after they were outlawed on NASCAR. They never hit the track.
So they ended up on a pulling tractor instead of a NASCAR track. They were too hot for NASCAR.
Yep. Yeah, these are about 520 cubic inches. And NASCAR, I guess the story I was told is NASCAR got wind of these coming out. They were building a 429 program, I guess, with this combination or this motor setup, and they outlawed them before they hit the track in 70. So they had these parts sitting around, so they started using them for boat racing, and then the Bossy brothers headed to Florida because they needed more horsepower to keep up with the Allisons, and they bought 6 of these motors, so, or bought the parts and then put them together. So,
wow, that's incredible.
Where this one, this has got about a 40. We'll be pulling in here with about a 45 mile an hour gear, We're turning these motors about 6,500. That one runs about 25 to 3,000. So big difference in horsepower and a big difference in the ride.
Which one's more fun to ride?
Well, this one here for sure. Yeah, it's this one will give you a good ride. When it's right, it's a lot of fun, and so it's a good deal.
Mike Ott laying down an awesome run, last mod in the class, and he does it for Holman Moody outlawed NASCAR engines. What a lot of fun, and it was a Farmall drag race of sorts. Just as he was taking off, Ruben Yount was taking off in the 6000 Antique, kind of had the lead handicap. Can one 4-cylinder Farmall beat 4 Fords in a Farmall? No, the answer is absolutely not. Another wild view of our winner in the vintage modified. My God, having the ride of his life here in Freedom Hall with the first ever 4-engine modified tractor. Awesome action here continues at the VTPA Nationals, including, well, some of the fun runs. You know, in our next episode of Day 2 coverage, we're going to have a class of semis. But, well, earlier today we had a visit with Derek McOrder, who was testing out this old military truck. Now, River City Truck Parts, they're one of the largest providers, sellers of remanufactured and re-engineered truck parts for the over-the-road industry and heavy industrial use, and they come across a lot of wild and unique vehicles besides your everyday Kenworth and Peterbilt. Derek McOrder, the owner, found this old military truck. It's for sale, got a big Camp Cummins in it, taking it down the track for the first time, because the thing at the Vintage Tractor Pulling Nationals, if it'll roll off the trailer, we're going to let you hook it to the sled. And Derek McOrder at River City Truck Parts giving us an inside view. Look at the drive shaft chugging on the dirt with this old military truck. A lot of fun. That's what pulling's about, and that's what the VTPA Nationals is all about. More action to come up next. A view of some of the chaotic action, but it's all a lot of fun. Come out and be a part of the chaos. Hey, it's the VTPA Nationals, world famous Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky, presented by Ram Trucks. The action just about to wrap up on day 1, but still some really cool, interesting stuff going on. Hey, we got us a winner in our 6,006 mile per hour. Jim Motzenbacher picking up his second victory of the day. The 2-cylinder John Deere's having a ball here on the track at Freedom Hall. Now, the thing about antique pulling, there's lots of classes. Think of NHRA drag racing, all the classes in super stock, stock, and competition eliminator. The same thing for the antique tractors. Here's one of the interesting classes, the 12 mile per hour 6,000 class. It was a battle between two 1,000 cubic inch inline 6-cylinder Molines. Ben Sinners lays down a great run, and he had a pull-off against another big Minneapolis Moline. Kevin Grissom trying his luck to beat the fellow Kentuckian in the Big Q Big Speed class. The Moline looking good, growling. But at the end of the day, the Moline of Ben Sinners ends up taking over the lead as Kevin looks on. He just knew he could not get the job done. Ben Sinners kind of having the look of an old rat rod, wouldn't you say? But hey, it's under the hood is what makes it work. Ben Sinners having a great day here with the Minneapolis Moline. One of the interesting things that happened here at the VTPA Nationals, father and son taking first and second in the 2-wheel drive category. First up was Travis Coomer. He took over the lead only to be knocked out of the lead distance by his son, Stephen Coomer. And Stephen Coomer laid down this awesome run for the win in the Super Stock two-wheel drives with the smallest engine in the class, technically a Pro Stock truck, but man, did they get a hold of the track here in Freedom Hall. And some of the fun stuff we saw, well, some vintage drag racing action with tractors. Hey, coming up next on the VTPA Pulley, you're gonna see two-wheel drive trucks. You're gonna see semi-action, ground-pounding four-wheel drives. Some of them maybe pound the ground a little too hard. And of course, the wild and woolly vintage tractors and the craziest, most exotic of all, the light limited super stocks with Alice Chalmers orange, straight and perfect red International Farmalls, and the green John Deeres. Thanks for being a part of Pulling History. Thanks to the Vintage Tractor Pulling Association, 852 FX. I'm Tom McConnell, Lachlan McLean. We'll see you next time.